And welcome to the Second Tier Podcast. I'm Ryan Dilks, and I'm joined by the Peyton Manning to my Tom Brady. It's Justin Peach.
Good day to you, Ryan.
Justin, another season has got underway, and it's another season of fans getting incredibly carried away after one result.
Well, and the same with us, I think. I've definitely getting carried away with some of the teams that I've played this weekend, and I'm sure we'll get stuck into it as the episode progresses. But yeah, it's been such a good weekend of football. It really has, and not quite the summer intro into the season that we're used to either. 13-degree weather, and people mentioning conditions down in Plymouth already is incredible in the first week of August.
Yeah, can people do it on a cold, windy
Summer
Tuesday night in Plymouth in August? That's the question that people will be asking. But you're absolutely right. It has been a cracking weekend, hasn't it? I mean, we've had some shock results already. I mean, some of the games we've had, particularly on Sunday as we record, have been fantastic, haven't they? So let's dive into them, Justin. Welcome to the number one championship podcast, the Second Tier. Thank you for joining us wherever you are. Yes, it's the first weekend of the championship season. So we're going to go through all the games that have happened over the past weekend. We'll also talk about some of the news from the past few days, including Mr. Brady entering the fold at Birmingham City and all the latest transfer news, of course, as well. It's also the return of the polls, which everyone is delighted to see. And we'll play a little game of Simon Grayson's Hateful right at the end as well. So let's start with the favourites for promotion, Leicester City, who kicked off the season with a 2-1 win over Coventry in the M69 derby, which is apparently a thing. The headline stolen by one man. Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall scored a brilliant brace, and he was sensational, wasn't he?
He was. He really was. And it's why we've picked him out to be a contender for player of the season this season, because he's got all of the quality you need in a central midfielder. Playing in that left number 8 role, he can really have a lot of freedom. And the goals that were scored by him were almost started by him as well. And it just goes to show the quality of player that he is, and the reason why Liverpool have been linked with him lately, because, as I say, he was a game changer, especially in that last 20 minutes. Leicester didn't really impress me throughout the game, but Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall and Leicester took control in that final 20, and that's what really won them the game, that individual quality to get them over the line. And that second goal, the header is fantastic. I like to talk about headers. The header is brilliant. He's not exactly a big lad either. It's a brilliant header, but that second goal in particular, the placement was just out of this world, incredible.
Yeah, the second one was a real beauty, wasn't it? But it wasn't just the goals. He was at the heart of virtually every Leicester attack, wasn't he? Getting the ball deep, spraying passes around, carrying it forwards. I lost count of the number of times where there was a Leicester attack against like 3v3, and it was with Dewsbury-Hall on the ball. He was just exceptional, and this was the kind of performance which shows why we both picked him to win player of the season. He's a Premier League player, and he stood out so much with his talent, and despite there being a lot of talent in both the Leicester team and Coventry team, he stood out amongst all of them, didn't he? And if Leicester keep hold of him, he's going to be unbelievable. This game as a whole, I thought it was great. Even when it was 0-0, there were chances for both teams. I just got the sense that we were watching two very good teams here who both could have won this one.
Well, you talk about the chances. I thought Coventry were the better side for 70 minutes. I was a little bit disappointed with Leicester. I thought they were a little bit disorganised at times. The high line was exploited by Coventry, especially in that second half. And Jamie Vardy kept dropping deep into midfield areas. What is the point? The man's 36 years old and a very good poacher. Shouldn't need to be dropping that deep. There needs to be better link-up play in those positions. There's certainly a lot there for Leicester to work on. But that final 20 minutes where the pressure ramped up, the intensity ramped up, the crowd got in amongst it as well. I think that's where we saw the best of Stefan Mavididi as well. Really impressed me on that left-hand side. And I think those combinations with Dewsbury-Hall are going to be really fun to watch over the next few months or as the season progresses. But yeah, I thought Leicester were okay, but I expected a little bit more.
Well, I wouldn't be too harsh on Leicester, Justin. We've got to remember Burnley last season under Vincent Kompany. Took them a while to get going, doesn't it? And it's going to be the same with Maresca as well. I mean, there is one team who we will talk about later who seem to have taken to their new manager's style of play very quickly. But we've got to set the expectations at a reasonable standard because we can't get too carried away. I will admit, I was a bit concerned with how shaky Leicester looked at set pieces, particularly the new goalkeeper, Hermanson. Yeah. Over the last couple of seasons, they've had one of the worst records in the Premier League for defending set pieces. Teams will be looking at Leicester and be thinking that's a way we can get at them, particularly with how Hermanson dealt with them. So definitely something they need to improve on. But otherwise, a great win for Leicester, especially coming from behind against a very good Coventry side. And I think this will be one of their trickiest games at home all season. And wouldn't surprise me if the reverse fixture is a bit of a promotion 6-pointer later in the season. So it could be a huge result in the grand scheme of things. And as I say, I thought Coventry gave a really good showing of themselves. Justin Gus Hamer had a game which wasn't far off as good as Dewsbury-Hall's. Casey Palmer had a great game. Ellis Sims was brilliant, even though he didn't have his shooting boots on. And Haji Wright looked lively when he came on. Did you look at this game, Justin, and think Coventry look a lot better than an 8th place finish, which is, of course, where you predicted them in your league table?
You're a scumbag. They really surprised me, actually, because their game plan worked perfectly. As I say, they got into those areas in between the midfield and the defence that Leicester were retreating through fear at times, really, from Coventry, and that space was exploited time and time again from them, and they were really impressive. Obviously, if you say that is probably alluding to maybe getting carried away a little bit. I do think 8th place, looking at this performance, if the game plans are similar in away games of this magnitude, then sure, Coventry can have a lot of success this season. But from my point of view, I do think the substitutions really disrupted Coventry, because the game changed, I think, at that point for them. Hamer coming off. I know fitness is a thing and getting new signings in and getting minutes into their legs, but that's where the game swung in Leicester's favour for me. And Coventry and Robbins probably let themselves down a little bit. But I'm not going to be too harsh on Coventry because the game plan worked to perfection for 70 minutes. Now, as I say, if they can repeat that time and time again throughout the season, then sure, they will be a success. But last 20 minutes is what we don't want to see, I think.
Tiny bit harsh, Justin. I think this game was a good example of why I rate Coventry's chances so highly of them doing something special this season. They've gone away to the team who are favourites to win the league title and put them to the sword. They went toe-to-toe with them, and considering the talent that Leicester have as well, you can make excuses for, they've got to get used to the Maresca system, but the amount of talent there, Coventry matched them, really. And they did it without the 2 new signings, who they've spent a total of £10 million on him, Wright and Van Eyck, who came off the bench. So on another day, they could have very easily won this game. And you look at it now, Coventry's squad is coming together very nicely. If Gus Hamer stays and they sign another centre-back, that starting 11 is right up there for me. And the idea of Haji Wright and Ellis Sims up front together, the potential is enormous, particularly based off what we saw against Leicester with those two getting into really, really exciting positions. So I'm only getting more and more excited by Coventry, and I think they're going to make you look very stupid. Let's go on. Why are you pulling that face?
Because I was being pragmatic with my approach to predicting Coventry's outcome this season because of the amount of business I still think needs to be done. Josh Eccles played at right wing back, for example. They need a little bit more depth in that area. I saw my point.
They've just spent £3.5 million on Van Eyck.
Yeah, I know. I'm aware of that, but he didn't start the game, and I thought Eccles was a bit shaky in that first 20, 25 minutes. I just think they need a little bit more depth as squad players. These squad players is what I'm saying. Because they can't...
Bodie, he played right wing back last season.
Yeah, not very well. Well, it wasn't his... It's not his primary position. He's better in other positions, i.e. centre-back.
The thing is, your big sticking point with them is squad depth. They have got more squad depth now than they did last season. They got to a playoff final.
Better quality of players, but not better squad depth. They have. No, 5 loan players went back for starters, and they've lost several squad players. We're getting dogged down on this. I don't think we need to. There's a lot of games to go through, but I was being pragmatic with my approach to predicting Coventry there.
Let's move on to the next game, which was on Sunday afternoon, and it was a 94th minute equaliser by Crescencio Somerville, which saw Leeds draw 2-2 with Cardiff. Heartbreak for Cardiff. They were 2-0 up, defended brilliantly in the second half, and then a shot from distance, gets deflected twice, falls straight to Somerville. How's your luck?
How is your luck? I mean, losing a 2-0 lead in your first game when you expected to not lose, but it's going to be a difficult fixture. Yeah, it's a sucker punch, isn't it? But it was a really entertaining game. Again, really impressed with the quality of football in the opening day this weekend, and particularly this Sunday. But Cardiff, again, they surprised me. They really exploited Leeds' plot holes. No, weaknesses. I'm just going to go with weaknesses. It's easier because there were quite a few, and Cardiff were brilliant in getting through them. But yeah, that is terrible. Look the way the ball dropped into Somerville, but that is how it goes sometimes, and they'll learn from that because, as I say, that really impressed me. Cardiff did today.
I didn't think Leeds deserved to win anyway because Crescentio Somerville wearing gloves in August is despicable.
Just cold.
Yeah. Well, it was just after attack after attack by Leeds, wasn't it? They did deserve something from the game, but I think there was plenty to be concerned about. The fact that it took them so long to get the equaliser, the number of good chances they had, it shouldn't have taken so long. And it is, of course, remembering that they didn't have a striker on the pitch, but I'm hesitant to say the least that it would have been better if Patrick Bamford or Jorginho Rutter had been on the pitch. Then, other end of the pitch, it was very sloppy. The 2 goals were certainly avoidable. Luke Ayling went walkies on the first one, didn't he? The thing is, we have no idea how that Leeds squad is going to look in a month's time.
Yeah.
So many players have been linked with moves away, and you can pretty much guarantee at least 2 will go, and that's being hopeful. So you've got those guys who need replacing, but then even if the squad stayed as it is, I reckon they need a striker, left back, centre mids. They've got some business to do if promotion is the aim, haven't they?
Absolutely, they do. You mentioning Luke Ayling there, and Sam Byram came on and was a lot more assured at left back. It's a signing that I think is going to be quite a smart one, actually. But yeah, Luke Ayling for that. Was it the first goal? He went walkabouts on the first goal. Yeah, he did. Yeah. Went to close in Ramsey, and it was absolutely pointless because just the space that was vacated behind, and then he was completely unaware of Ugbo as well. It was a really frustrating display in that first half defensively, especially that second goal where Cardiff just seemed to walk through Leeds. There wasn't a steely nature to what I was expecting. I was defensively last season they were garbage. This season, based on the small table we have, i.e. the 45 minutes, it was once again garbage, and that's what would concern me. I think going forwards they are okay, and they did get into some good areas. They needed a little bit more, as you were pointing out, but defensively, not going to be anywhere near the top 6 if they defend like that. It's as simple as that. That's why we put them 8th.
Yeah, well, it's completely fair comment to make, Justin. Great result for Cardiff, though, wasn't it? They defended well, scored from their only 2 shots on target, but ultimately grinded out the result in the end.
Well, that's what you need to do, isn't it? You need to take your chances when they come, and that's not what we're not being able to say that about Cardiff very often at all. They were really poor going forward to last season, but they showed extra potential, extra efforts in getting into that final third. They were flooding into the box, especially on that first goal. There was more bodies in the box probably in that spell of attacks than there probably were in the entirety of last season. Is how poor they were going forwards last season. They've got a lot of spark in the final third as well, but the key thing was they just took the chances. I don't think Ugbo's opportunity was a particularly easy one either, because he's had to stretch quite far to get to it. He's had to really get on the end of it, and he's collided with the post in doing so. But they took the chances. O'Dowda's cross for the Bowler goal was fantastic as well. Again, Ugbo's awareness to lay the ball back into Bowler was really intelligent. There was a lot there to be impressed with from Cardiff, and I think if they can repeat that first half performance in games again, they'll be nowhere near the bottom 3.
Not sure about that. I won't go that far, Justin. I think, well, put it this way. If we thought Cardiff fans' expectations were a bit out of hand before, imagine how they would have been if they won this game. I mean, look, it was a great result for Cardiff, but it is just the one game, and they could have very easily lost if Leeds had their shooting boots on. A great reminder of how little the first game of the season can mean is literally last season for Cardiff. They beat Norwich, who were one of the bookies' favourites for promotion, weren't they? And then Cardiff went on to win 2 in their next 10 games. So one result doesn't necessarily mean much. I do fear that Cardiff's transfer business this summer could end up having an adverse effect on how they do this season. Stay with me on this. I say that because the likes of Ramsey, etc., coming in seem to have raised expectations to unreasonably high levels. I've seen so many discussing the possibility of top 6 and what have you, and when that's simply not going to happen. And as a result, if Cardiff are 18th or what have you after 15 or 20 games. I can easily see it getting to the point where fans won't be happy, and then Errol Bullock gets sacked, and then Cardiff are back in the vicious cycle, which caused so many problems for them last season. So, I mean, I can already see us getting lots of messages about second-tier bias and what have you, but every other Championship pundit I've seen has Cardiff in the same position as us, just outside the relegation zone. So it's not like we're the only ones with doubts over them. And fans are pointing out the front four of, Ramsey, Grant, Robinson, Bowler, saying things like this is a top 6 attack when it's simply not. None of those players would get into a top 6 team. And I mean, at one point they would, but not now. Grant and Robinson have willingly been let go by a team that's just finished mid-table over the last 2 seasons. And then Josh Bowler struggled at Blackpool last season. So my point is, unfortunately for Cardiff, there's much more to a team than just 4 players. And the expectations seem to be out of proportion with where the club actually is. And I could see that being a problem down the line, particularly with fans getting annoyed with how things are going if they're not going as well as many are hoping for them to go. That's the only thing I'd say. But let's move on just into Southampton, who've kicked off the Championship season in style on Friday night by beating Sheffield Wednesday 2-1. Shea Adams with a late winner. That first half from Southampton was outrageous, Justin. They set a new Championship record for the most passes in 45 minutes with 477. Oh, it was mouth-watering, wasn't it?
It's like when you nip for food, isn't it? When you're trying to play online on FIFA, you nip for food and you just tell your mate to just pass it around for a bit. That's what it felt like, just constant passing around. I was quietly impressed with Southampton. I'm not going to shout it from the rooftops because I think Martin explained that the team is not where he wants it to be, and I thought we saw that in the game. But the first half was incredibly dominant. Obviously disappointed with Sheffield Wednesday in that first half, but we'll get onto them. But yeah, I think that the key thing with Southampton is turning that possession into more emphasis in the final third. Because I saw a pass map which made me laugh. Obviously, the amount of passes that Southampton completed, the pass map showed a heavy ink in the middle of the pitch, but not a lot going into the penalty area. So I think the key thing there is to turn those passing combinations and long spells of dominance and turning that into sustained dominance in the final third. I think that's the key thing. But yeah, it was a good win because Hillsborough's a tough place to go. Wednesday going to make it hard for a lot of teams this season, and a lot of off the ball work as well in that first half. Especially the press was good. When Wednesday did improve in the second half, I thought Southampton dropped off a little bit, which shows some signs of weakness. But as I pointed out, Martin explained that the team's not where he wants it to be. So if that's an indicator of what they are now, imagine what they can be in a month or two. Incredible.
Well, I thought it would take a while for the Southampton players to get used to how Russell Martin wants to play. But on the basis of this, perhaps we don't have to worry. This is the Russell Martin ball that we've been wanting to see. It was beautiful to watch at times. The high line, the triangles, the inverted wing backs. I mean, Cal Walker-Peters was having a field day in that role. It was rather reminiscent of the first day of last season when we sat down and watched Burnley and everyone was just like, wow. And there's certainly parallels there, I think. If there was a criticism you could lay at their door, it was lacking a bit of a cutting edge because for all the dominance, there wasn't many clear-cut chances. But certainly for a first outing, it was extremely impressive. Also, 95% possession after they scored the winner. They can't score if they don't have the ball, Justin. And it was rather enjoyable just watching Southampton play piggy in the middle with 11 Sheffield Wednesday players just chasing their tails around them. Also, outrageous that Nathan Teller goal has been given to Adam Armstrong. I know it's touched him, but come on.
How is that outrageous? It's fact. It's come off Adam Armstrong.
I know it's facts, but it's taken the slightest little deflection off him. And
are you claiming that? If that comes off your arse, are you claiming that as your goal?
I would say, Nathan Teller, that's a beautiful goal. I'm not going to claim that. You can have that, son.
You're
and I think Adam Armstrong's disgraceful if he does anything different. Also, it's only the 4th time Southampton have won on the opening day since 1989. Pretty impressive record, that, isn't it? Impressively bad. I mean, so yeah, it was good for them to go against the grain on that record in particular. I'm not too sure what to make of Wednesday's performance, Justin. The only thing I'm sure of is that it's probably Carlton Palmer's fault.
I don't know how to lead on from that. I had quite a good speech lined up. You've sort of spotted that. I think there are two ways you could look at it from Wednesday's perspective. Is that there was a significant gulf in class and quality, two divisions apart last season, or they were ill prepared for the game. I'm sort of leaning towards, well, not leaning towards anyway. I think both apply. I'm in the middle on that. If you think about how much time Isco's had to work out how to play against the Russell Martin side, the blueprint was there last season. And he basically in that first half failed to deploy a side that presses. Instead, they retreated deep and they allowed Southampton or gave Southampton just far too much respect. I think Nathan Taylor, having the amount of time he had to pull his shot off, for example, is, you need to be aggressive. You can't retreat too deep into your penalty box. But they did improve in the second half, and I was impressed. They had a 25 minute spell where they pressed, they were physical, and they made it really uncomfortable for Southampton, especially from set pieces. They were highly effective, and I just think they're not going to be able to do that every game. But if they can mimic, I'm going to say this about a lot of teams today, but if they can mimic and make that more consistent, then they will get points. But that first half was really poor defensively and organised. There was no tactics. It was really poor.
Yeah, I didn't really know what the game plan was. On the rare occasions they had the ball, it was like they were surprised to have it and just went shit. And then, it was what it was like a hot potato. Whenever they had the ball, just instantly, oh, we've got the ball, boom. But they defended well, in fairness to them. Southampton only had a couple of great chances, but then after conceding the first goal, I didn't really get what they were trying to do. Yeah. They were putting themselves under more pressure by letting Southampton pass it around them in the middle of the park. From a pressing perspective, as you were saying, it was just non-existent, and it was almost like they were content with being a goal down. But look, we shouldn't be too harsh, because Southampton were excellent, and that will almost certainly be one of Wednesday's trickiest games of the season. However, we have raised concerns about Isco Munoz's tactical capabilities, and I didn't see any evidence here that we might be wrong on that front.
Just want to make one more point. Russell Martin at the end of the game did the 3 fist pump thing. Can we eradicate that from football, please? Because I'm seeing too many managers do it. Can we do something else? Can there be a bow? Sky Sports is marketing football as the greatest show on earth. Therefore, should you be bowing instead of doing the 3 fist pump thing?
When you say bowing, what do you mean?
I can't really. It's hard to do it while I'm sat down. But just
a literal bow, like the end of a stage show.
Yeah, at the end of a stage show, just bow and then get back and go again. Or boil some piss. Just do the soccer AM wrestlers thing. Just go around with Matt Gill, whatever his name is, going easy. Instead of just doing the 3 manager fist pump, it's doing me head in.
I would love to see them doing the wrestler easy thing. That would be fantastic. To be fair, you've sold me now. I wasn't with you before, but now that you've said that, you've got me on board. Let's go to one more game before we have a break, Justin. And oh dear, QPR were thumped 4-0 away at Watford. Oh dear, Justin. I know we've given Gareth Ainsworth a lot of stick over the past few weeks, but I was heading into the season thinking, go on, let's give him a chance, because you never know. It might have been like Paul Ince last season, where we gave him loads of stick heading into the season, but they actually started the season quite well, Reading guys. This was fairly disastrous, though.
It was abysmal. It was absolutely abysmal. It's got to the point where Ainsworth is talking about safety already. 45 games left. Come on, that's not the attitude you should be putting out there. How can you inspire your players and your supporters? It's utter delusion. He's talking like it's February again, and they're up against it, and they are up against it, but you've got 45 games left. You're an experienced manager. This is not the perception you should be putting out. It feels defeatist. It feels like you are admitting defeat, and you're just rolling up in a ball and allowing yourself to get kicked about, because, again, that's what this game felt like. And if they carry on like that, they're going to get pumped 4-0 quite a lot at home and away. Going into the game, I know they're missing defenders, but as a unit, they were poor. They were poor midfield forwards, did not match the intensity of Watford at all. It didn't feel like a group of players that were buying into a system or a manager. I think it's quite interesting as well that Wickham were 1-0 down within the first minute alongside Gareth Ainsworth's new side. It's a weird coincidence how that happened. They played more long balls than Watford. They kept losing it time and time again. What have you been doing all pre-season? I was expecting this wonderful sequence of passes that we saw in that 20-second clip against AFC Wimbledon. Nothing. It was dreadful. I got nothing else to say other than Ainsworth is walking the tightest of ropes, or thinnest of ropes, I should say. He's not good at all.
Yeah, it must have been a long bloody summer because I completely forgot how exasperating it is listening to Gareth Ainsworth after games. He just comes out with some utter drivel, doesn't he? I mean, he said, "We don't know if we've just played the league winners." What is he talking about? It's just bonkers, isn't it? And then, as you were saying, he's already talking about them staying up. And I know virtually everyone's predicting them to go down, but you don't want to hear it from your manager after one game. And this was embarrassing. Conceding 1 minute in, Watford had 24 shots to QPR's 4. They've given a Valérien Ismaël team 71% possession. Valérien Ismaël does not care about possession, but they had it in abundance here. And I was saying a couple of weeks ago about how difficult QPR's first 10 games are. This is one of their easier ones. Only one of their opening 5 games is at home. And then the first 10 games, they only face one team, Justin, who we predicted to finish in the bottom half. They could be 10 points from safety by October. It's honestly quite frightening. And in fact, there's a very good chance they could be in the bottom 3 literally all season because they're bottom of the table now. If considering how difficult those first few games are, then can we really see them climbing up that high? Considering how bad things look right now, unless there's a huge turn, then things are only going to get even worse. In fact, it is like that Mick McCarthy meme, isn't it? Can it get any worse? It can. And look, I'm not saying they should sack him right now because they won't. And it would just be ridiculous to sack him after one game, right? But the QPR hierarchy must be looking at it and thinking, who do we get in next? Because they must already have plans in place because they must know he's under pressure. It'd be foolish of them not to have some plans in place because it's just not working. I mean, one game into the season.
Conceding a lot of goals under him as well. It'd be remiss of us not to mention the hierarchy at QPR. It's a rudderless club at the moment. It doesn't seem like anyone's taking charge of it. Gareth Ainsworth is getting a lot of flack, rightly so. The team's poor, managed poorly, but the ownership does need to take a lot of flack for it as well because the decisions they've made over the last 18 months have been interesting. So it's not all on Gareth Ainsworth, but at the end of the day, when you're getting pumped by a lot of goals in quite a few of your games in charge of a club, you're not got a long time left. They had one shot on target. There was just nothing of note to take from a QPR perspective, which is such a shame because this time last year the club had so much potential. We were excited about them, and that's it. That's gone.
Yeah, but you're not wrong. And I get what you said about the hierarchy at QPR. They have made a lot of bad decisions in the past 12 months. Having said that, I think Ainsworth has to take the majority of the blame here because this squad could be doing better, but they're just playing like shit, aren't they? Fair play to Watford. The Wolves were given a nice juicy steak and they absolutely tore it to shreds. Imran Louza was utter class. That pass for the first goal was ludicrous. I mean, his goal wasn't bad either, but that pass was just superb. Valérien Ismaël said after the game, the starting 11 were all here last season. It shows what can be achieved with a change of mindset, which I am interpreting as a direct dig at Chris Wilder.
Of course you would. You're Mr. Controversial. You want to look for smoke where there's no fire. But
is that not a dig, Justin?
It might be, but they had a lot of managers last season. It could have been a dig at Slaven Bilic. It could have been a dig at Rob Edwards. Take your pick. But what you can say about this team is they weren't as direct as many may have thought, and that's why I'm convinced Val is the man for Watford this season. That's why I'm convinced he'll last the entire campaign. That's me getting carried away. That is after one performance, and as you quite rightly say, QPR lathered themselves up. They seized themselves, and they allowed the Wolves here to just absolutely rip them apart. But they were very slick going forwards. There was plenty of movements. There was some really good combinations off the ball. Jeremy Ngakia really impressed me. He was an exceptional right wing back. Took a lot of took up a lot of positions in central midfield, an inverted role, as you like. Won 7 of his individual duels and created 5 chances at the same during the game as well. And he was a player that really impressed me. So more of that, more of the same, and you can expect me to get very carried away with Valérien Ismaël and Watford this season.
Yeah, no surprise here, Justin getting carried away after one game. But yeah, fair play to Watford. They looked impressive. Job was made a lot easier by QPR being made of butter, but I'm not sure I'd go as far as saying what Ainsworth was saying about potential league winners, but who knows? It is the Championship, I suppose. Justin, let's take a quick break. After that, we'll talk about a cracking game between Sunderland and Ipswich, and also a return to the Championship for Plymouth Argyle. Welcome back to the Second Tier podcast. Ipswich marked their return to the second tier with a 2-1 victory away at Sunderland. I thought Sunderland were much the better team in the first 30 minutes, but didn't take advantage of it. Ipswich then got on top. Under a bit of pressure in the final, I was going to say final 10 minutes, but considering injury time was 13 minutes, such as the state of modern injury time now, maybe that's a bit of a moot point. But you see what I'm saying, Justin. I thought Leif Davis was excellent at left back. Nathan Broadhead was really good on left wing. I wasn't too convinced by George Hurst as a forward, but I thought he actually played really well here. And I would still suggest they need a new striker, but he did do very well in fairness to him. They defended well too. So, keep in mind the context here that this is a newly promoted side winning against a side which got to the playoffs last season, away from home as well. Really impressive result.
It is an impressive result. It played like prime Real Madrid. They were fantastic. I do think that there were a lot of things that they do need to work on, but I think when you put it into the perspective of they're coming up against a team who finished 5th last season or 6th last season in the Championship and got to playoff semi-final and are incredibly gifted going forwards, then it's an impressive performance. I thought Ipswich were really good on the break. That when they broke through that Sunderland press, they broke through really, really quickly. And for 80, 85, 90 minutes, they were very resolute defensively. I know Sunderland did a really good job of opening them up at times, but other than that first 25, 30 minutes, Ipswich started to take control in the manner where didn't create too many chances, but didn't allow Sunderland to really get into their flow. So it was a good away performance from Ipswich, and again, a reason why we rate McKenna so highly, because he can organise his teams.
The big question is, Justin, are you jumping aboard the Ipswich are going up tractor? It's the question that everyone is asking. It's the new thing, the new vehicle on the block. Are you getting on board?
I'm not going to get on board yet. I had them down as 3rd or 4th in my individual prediction.
Which is why I find it a bit confusing that you're so outraged at the idea of them finishing top 2, because that's only a place or 2 above where you had them.
It's a quote. No, but it's a big difference though, isn't it? It's a big difference finishing the automatics, because you're expecting a team to get 90, 85, 90 points, win 23 games. It's a big ask for a side who are still quite early on in a transitional phase, if you like. We've only taken over 2 years ago. McKenna's been in charge for not even 2 years yet. So it's a big ask, and especially with the lack of, I think, Championship quality standard forwards in the team, it might fall short. But they took the chances in this game, and that's what you got to do away from home. And as I say, they opened up something quite often on that break. So if they can repeat those away performances and pick up a fair few points away from Portland Road, then maybe. But I'm not jumping on the tractor just yet.
What will it take to convert you?
I don't know. Ask me in November.
What will it take to convert you before the end of the month? Think about the transfer business wise.
If they can bring in an additional striker, maybe move, I don't know, maybe Freddie De La Dapo on, bring in another striker. I do like George Hurst. I think he's taken a lot of flack. I don't know why. He's a player with a point to prove, and he proved very useful last season in League One. But if they can bring in another central midfielder, maybe. I'm not sure. I like Sam Morsey, but again, you got last whole season in that position, and then maybe another forward. Then perhaps I'll be convinced. But whether or not that's quality enough for a top 2 push, I don't know. I just don't know.
I'm going to convert you at some point. Luckily for you, tractors are slow moving, so you will have a chance to get on. But because you have been so disparaging, I'm not sure if I will let you on. I particularly want Ipswich to do well, not just because we've tipped them to do well, but because Darren Huckabee has taken a dislike to us for some reason. And apparently it's really winding him up that we think Ipswich will do well. So I'm even more on board of the Ipswich are going up tractor at this point. I will say the goalkeeper, Hladky, is it?
Hladky. Václav Hladky.
Yeah, I wasn't too convinced by him. Christian Walton's out injured now for a while, so that's maybe somewhere I'd look to strengthen. Striker, as I say, I think centre half possibly as well could do with it coming in. But I mean, Adam Armstrong has been linked with the striker role, but that would be interesting. So we'll see. I think there's definitely going to be some incomings at Ipswich before the window closes. Also, well done to the referee for playing the advantage for Ipswich's second goal. We give referees plenty of slack, Justin, so may as well give them some praise when they do something right. I thought Sunderland actually played okay. The main thing I would say is they desperately need a striker themselves. Young Lewis Semedo was thrown in up top and struggled, and it's not too much of a surprise, really. He's only previously played for Benfica's B side, and with Ross Stewart not going to be fully fit for at least 3 months, they need someone else. Otherwise, that's going to be a real problem for them, isn't it?
Yeah, you are right. There were some neat combinations in that final third, but it does lack someone with you need a bit more of a presence, don't you, in that position? I thought if you compare him to George Hurst, who threw himself about quite a bit, Semedo lacked that physicality. Again, it's not a surprise. He's a young player in a new country without a lot of first team experience, so he's going to go through the motions. But they really could do with maybe a lone player, someone of Ellis Sims's experience coming in. Would be a good signing. But you're right, they impressed me. I really enjoyed how Sunderland got the ball into good areas, and they've got some really good technical players. Patrick Roberts is a honey trap for the defenders in the league. He's so lovely to watch. Another player I really do enjoy watching is Pierre Ekwah at the moment. At the moment he's only one game in, but he glides when he's on the ball, and he had that chance, didn't he, where he had a shot and Joe Bellingham put it over the bar. But it seems a player like West Ham will pay 20 million pounds for in a year's time, I reckon, which just makes it silly that they allowed him to leave because he looks a talent.
I'm not going to disagree with you on that one, Justin. Let's go to Plymouth, who marked their return to the Championship with a 3-1 win over Huddersfield. Great win for Argyle and a great game in general, actually. Huddersfield had their fair share of good chances and probably should have done better, but Plymouth had that extra bit of quality that really shone through, particularly in the form of Ballymumba, who scored a brilliant goal. And he is some player, Justin, isn't he?
He is. It just makes it all the more ludicrous that Norwich allowed him to go for £1 million because he's so exciting. He's a wing back, isn't he? But he played in a much more advanced role here, and he caused Huddersfield so many problems. He's incredible with the ball at his feet, and I think he got 6 goals or 7 assists last season. A lot of goal involvements and goal contributions. He's an incredibly gifted player with so much potential, and playing in a system that allows your attacking players to really blossom. I think he's going to get even more out of him, especially at Championship level. And as we saw with the goal that he scored, he just passed through Huddersfield so easily. You can argue that Huddersfield maybe should have done a little bit better defensively with that. But nonetheless, it was still a good finish at the end of a marauding run, which is a very difficult thing to do because quite normally you're out of breath and a bit tired, but it wasn't. It was composed. It was precise. He was brilliant.
Good thing he was not out of breath. But I mean, Norwich sold this lad for £1 million. Daylight robbery. Why isn't someone going to do something about this? Norwich have been utterly robbed. But he was just a constant thorn in Huddersfield's side all game. Played his part in the first goal as well. 21 years old. He's going to be a lot of fun to watch this season, isn't he? Particularly if he's playing further forward like he was here. As you say, usually a wing back in a Plymouth shirt, but if he's given license to roam, then he's going to be causing a lot of problems for defenders. I said it in the league table predictions, but Plymouth will not go down this season. I can just guarantee it now. I think the vast majority of Championship pundits like us have tipped them to stay up anyway. However, the bookies don't seem to be as sure, but I am. That front three of Mumba, Hardy and Whittaker will cause a lot of problems this season. Defensively, they were a bit shaky against Huddersfield, but they weren't playing a back three, which is what they did throughout last season. So when Julio Pleguezuelo comes into the team, they should be more solid. Also, home park, going to be a massive factor. only dropped 3 points. Only dropped points there 3 times last season, I should say. And you saw the atmosphere and the wind. That's going to be a tough hunting ground for teams. So I don't think they'll be in danger of going down this season. I reckon they're looking more towards mid-table, as was reflected in our predictions. Anything on Huddersfield, Justin?
I don't think it was the worst performance. I don't think the scoreline reflected it. Huddersfield did create some good chances and got into some good areas. I think Josh Cromwell was guilty, Danny Ward too, of missing some really gilt-edged chances, really. I think defensively, the Mumba goal sort of summed it up. Someone's got to take one for the team there, just take him out. A bit of a shithouse move, but you've got to do that. And there's a couple of square pegs in round holes with positions in various areas of the pitch. But you look at the lack of movement in the transfer market from Huddersfield. I think that's going to improve. So, yeah, not the worst performance. Bit of defeat, losing 3-1, but there were some good signs there.
Middlesbrough got the season off to a losing start at home to Millwall. Romain Essa scoring the only goal of the game. What a finish as well that was. He's one to keep an eye on this season, isn't he? 18 years old, to have the composure to do that fairly late in the game. Very impressive, but he made a few appearances off the bench last season, all very late on, so he never really had the chance to make much of an impact. However, he has impressed in pre-season, and fair to say Millwall are looking a bit light in the final third, so if he has a breakout season, it will be huge for them. The Southwark Saka is what he's being called, which I like. It's better than some other nicknames that are being bandied about, so I'm excited to see more of him, and Ademo Imarku as well, who set him up for that matter. So look at this, 2 exciting youngsters coming through at Millwall.
Well, as I say, it doesn't happen very often, but they do have a good track record of bringing through players at Millwall. You look at Danny McNamara and Billy Mitchell have really thrived over the last couple of years, and Romain Essa looks to be another one. I listened to a Millwall fan ooze over him on 606 after the games on Saturday for a good 3 or 4 minutes, which sort of gave me a bit more insight into it, because obviously when you got young players coming through, it's quite hard when you're not in a club's environment to really understand them. But the Millwall fan was oozing over him, and it made me very excited to see what he can do over the next over the season, and seeing how he progresses, because I think he said every time Essa gets the ball, the fans not believe, but they get up, they get excited. And when you've got a player like that in your team, which Millwall don't have a habit of producing, it makes for a lot of excitement.
Yeah, really does. An excellent win for Millwall to kick off the season against a much fancied Borough side. And it's fair to say Borough was certainly lacking firepower here, weren't they? Chuba Akpom was only fit enough for the bench. It meant Matt Crooks was playing behind Morgan Rogers. Justin, you were back in Middlesbrough for the top 2 in our league table predictions, but you've got to admit they need to sign players before the window closes if they even want to make the top 6, don't they?
They look 3 or 4 players short, if I'm being honest with you. It sounds quite harsh, but they need another forward, another striker, that is. They need a left back. Hayden Coulson did okay, but it wasn't what is needed. You look at Ryan Giles' contribution last season. They need a wing back who's got that ability to whip a ball in. Very hard to come by. But Kieran Scott's got to do it. I think that the thing that worries me is we saw it last season and last summer and the summer before, key targets being missed. Worried that it's happening again with Middlesbrough. They do need to get busy. I think that's the key thing. You've got 2 periods with the transfer window, don't you? You've got before the season starts, where you get players in, and essentially get your squad together, and then once the games start, that's when you start to really identify exactly what you need and what you're missing. And Middlesbrough, for me, are missing quite a bit.
If they stuck with their current squad, do you reckon they get the top 6?
I think it's touch and go. I think it's one of those where it goes down to like last 3 games, because I do think there's quality. I really do. I believe there's a lot of quality, and defensively, I think they can be a decent outfit. But they miss a goal scorer, and Akpom being in there is going to help. But again, can he replicate some of that his season last season? Maybe. He's never done it before, so maybe the question marks over that. So yeah, 3 or 4 players short for me. Top 6 is touch and go with the current squad.
Interesting. Let's go to Stoke, who have had a strong start after beating Rotherham 4-1. New signing Andre Vidigal got a double. Keon Ahoiva, Jacob Brown getting on the score sheet too. Stoke were very impressive here.
Surprised me because they played with an intensity. There was a clear game plan. There was a clear plan of when it came to their press and their shape and going forwards. They were very purposeful in what they were doing. It was really impressive. The reason why I'm surprised is because the ability to do that with the amount of players that they brought in, 11 players have come through the door. So the ability to get that style of play implemented and done it and get it done quickly is a very difficult thing to do. So credit to Alex Neil, deserves, as I say, a lot of credit for doing that. They peppered Rotherham. Okay, we can get carried away, but there was a lot of positives there and a lot of good performances. Josh Laurent really impressed me. Hoiver impressed me. A lot of big positives come out of that, and just make me want to get carried away with Stoke. But I've been in this position before where I've been stung, bitterly stung, and I'm not going to allow that to happen again.
I'm exactly the same, Justin. It was an impressive performance, but I refuse to get excited about Stoke until May at the earliest. They've beaten a team at home who most people would have predicted to go down, so I don't think anyone should be getting carried away anyway. But Stoke are a side who I will take a lot more convincing with than other sides in the division. On the other hand, Rotherham desperately need to sign players, don't they? I was on Sky Sports the other day. Let me just pick up that plug. They asked me which club needs to sign players, and I instantly thought Rotherham is the worst squad in the league. And it's simple as that. They've got a manager in Matt Taylor. Otherwise, I'd give them no chance of staying up. Having said that, if they don't sign at least 5 or 6 players before the window closes, I have very little hope of them staying up. No club needs to sign players more than them. I've got no doubt about that.
I completely agree. You look at the service that went into in this game into Jordan Hugo, who's a striker who thrives off service. Only 6 crosses went into the box. Onion Dimma only had 22 touches and completely just one dribble. Not all down to him, but it just highlights how poor they were going forwards, and defensively they were picked apart by Stoke as well. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done. Got a lot of energy in that midfield, but I wasn't particularly impressed with Cafu, I should say. He's not played a lot of football over the last 12 months, so to expect him to come in and be the player he needs to be in that midfield, not overly convinced. You are right. They need to strengthen significantly. And a lot of Rotherham fans will think we're being biased against them, but the lack of quality is there to be seen. They were picked apart by Stoke side, who have invested a lot in their squad this summer, and there was a clear difference in quality.
They'll face more difficult games than Stoke away, I imagine, this season as well. So, tricky times for Rotherham. A 95th minute winner from Adam Eder saw Norwich beat Hull 2-1. Bit of controversy here because the winning goal shouldn't have stood. The ball's clearly gone out for a goal kick in the build-up, but nothing was given. Liam Mazzini was sent off because he was so outraged, although I think he was a bit more upset about how late it was when it went in as opposed to the goal kick. Despite that, Norwich deserved the win here. The first half, they were excellent. A bit more of an even second half, but they were the better team over 90 minutes without a doubt. First win at Carrow Road since February, no less. Well, that is some record, isn't it? What a goal by Jonathan Rowe as well. First start in a Norwich shirt, homegrown lad as well. He was exceptional. Not the first young lad who's impressed us on the opening day of this weekend, is it? Not a great day at the office for Hull, but one bright spark was undoubtedly Liam Delap. Scored one, nearly got another, but was denied by a great save by Angus Gunn. We said if he gets a couple of goals at the beginning of the season, could be a completely different player, so certainly want to keep an eye on there. A quick fire double in the first half was enough for Blackburn to see off West Brom 2-1. It finished. A bit of controversy here as well. West Brom should have had 2 penalties at least. The one in Jed Wallace in particular was a stone waller, as far as I'm concerned. West Brom should have had 2 penalties, as I say. Nicely taken goal by Matt Phillips. Harry Leonard had a great game in his first start of his career. Could have had a hat-trick, but he's getting in those positions, which is impressive. So another youngster who's impressed us on the opening day. Anything on this game quickly, Justin?
I was going to say Harry Leonard sounds like a Simpsons character. That's all I can really add. You've pretty much covered everything there.
Great analysis by us on the second tier, as usual. A late equaliser from Will Keane saw Preston draw 1-1 away at Bristol City. More controversy. It certainly looked as if there was handball in the build-up to that equaliser, but a draw probably was a fair result. Only other thing I have to say on this is the camera angle at Ashton Gate is somehow even higher. It's ridiculous. It's essentially on the moon. They must film the games using a telescope. It's so far away.
Things aren't going to change. It's
They've
there
got
for
to.
it's not going to change
I can't tell who's who.
unless we start a petition. I don't think things will change. I don't think things will change if we start a petition anyway. No one cares.
Just move it lower, please. And finally, Swansea won, Birmingham won. Birmingham had the better chances in this one. Bizarrely, the two best ones fell to Ivan Sunjic, which is kind of like it falling to Lord Lucan. Did not expect him to be there. DJ, play that news jingle. Yes, it's time for the news. An American football legend, Tom Brady, has become a minority owner of Birmingham City. He's entered a partnership with the club's new owners and says Birmingham City is an iconic club with so much history and passion, and to be part of the Blues is a real honour for me. Is his judgment in picking football clubs to invest in as accurate as his passing, Justin?
Well, yeah, Birmingham City are on the up. I know we once described Birmingham as an unattractive club to buy. It was right at the time because the club was riddled with debt and the stands were rubble. But they are heading in the right direction under the new ownership, and Tom Brady coming in. Not really sure how involved will be. I know that it's been spoken about how he will be involved, but I'm not actually sure if Tom Brady's going to be in the building doing that or just doing Zoom webinars. I think that's probably more likely. But yeah, it's an exciting period for Birmingham City, and it's an exciting appointment. It gets fans behind the team, behind the club again. It rekindles a connection that was lost under BSHL, which is the key thing here.
Yeah, I think it's a bit of a PR thing, isn't it? Let's be honest. It is a common thing now for celebrities to be offered shares at clubs at a discount price or even for free in some cases. We don't know for sure if that's the case here, but it's definitely a PR move in some way, shape or form. And I find it hard to believe that Tom Brady or his people have meticulously studied each English club, looked at Birmingham and thought, oh, they've just signed Tyler Roberts. Let's invest in them. So it's a nice little PR thing into it. I think it means next to nothing in reality, to be quite honest. Let's go through the latest transfer news. These are just the confirmed deals since Monday, and Coventry have splashed out £7.7 million on American striker Haji Wright from Antalyaspor in Turkey. I assume they signed him as an homage to Mustafa Haji, with the name sharing, whatever. Looks a really exciting striker, quick, strong, 29 goals in 60 games in the Turkish Super League. Looks very much like a replacement for Victor Gyökeres. Leicester have spent a reported £6 million on Montpellier forward Steffi Mavididi. Looked lively against Coventry, didn't he? Can't say I was too convinced about this when it was announced because his numbers in France aren't outstanding by any means, but we'll see. Cardiff have signed Josh Bowler on loan from Forest. I've already given my thoughts on this one. Justin, what do you think?
I think it's a tidy signing. You are right in what you were saying, that this time last year it would have been a really exciting signing, but because he had a poor year, it's just whelming, isn't it? It's not quite amazing, but he had a really good debut against Leeds. Get the ball into him in the final third, he will set teams alight. It's just the rest of his game that needs refining, but Cardiff, it seems like a good match because a lot of players there need to prove themselves. So yeah, I think it's a decent signing.
West Brom have brought in former Sunderland striker Josh Maja. He scored 16 goals last season for Bordeaux in the French second tier, which I thought was relatively impressive. And then I saw his shot conversion rate is around 1 in 9. So he was having a lot of shots. Considering West Brom's big issue has been putting away chances, not convinced he's the answer, I've got to say. Goalkeeper Matthias Sarkic has gone to Millwall on a permanent deal from Wolves. Stoke have signed Burnley defender Luke McNally on loan. He was a regular at Coventry last season. Great signing that, isn't it, Justin?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, it's just Stoke just reeling me in. They've got me on hook at the moment, and they're just pulling in. But I'm just trying to be really reserved on them and not give too much away because, as I say, we've mentioned it already. It's quite easy to get stung by them, but it's a really good signing. One that will go under the radar as being one of the better ones in the window this summer.
Yeah, I think Coventry wanted to get him back as well, which would have been an impressive move for them. Hull have got Aaron Connolly back on a permanent deal. Hopefully we'll find out the answer this season to the lifelong question of whether Aaron Connolly is actually any good. Jack Colback has gone to QPR. Yeah. Swansea have completed a triple signing this week. It includes Brighton goalkeeper Carl Rushworth on loan, who had a great season with Lincoln last season. Newcastle right back Harrison Ashby on loan, and Ukrainian striker Mikola Kuharevich on a permanent deal from French side Troy. Big fan, by the way, of Swansea putting out a video on how to pronounce his name Football clubs, please do this more. Makes podcasting a lot easier. Preston have brought in defender Jack Watmore on a free from Wigan. Managed to get out of his contract there because of missed wage payments. Good signing for Preston, that though. Plymouth have re-signed Villa midfielder Finn Azaz on loan. He was excellent last season, so that's a good move for him. Now, Sheffield Wednesday have had a busy few days. They've signed 4 players. They are former Preston defender Bambo Diaby, former Man U defender Dishon Bernard, former Monaco winger Anthony Basaba. They've all joined on permanence, and they've also brought in AC Milan goalkeeper Devis Vasquez on loan. When asked about him, Isco Munoz described him, and I love this, Justin, as a very good keeper. Thank you for that stunning insight, Isco. Rotherham have signed former Villa winger Andre Green on a free. He was most recently playing in Slovakia. Leeds have signed Sam Byram. What? Why? They've also loaned out defender Max Wober to Borussia Mönchengladbach. Watford have signed midfielder Georgi Fatadze on loan from Ghent in Belgium. Played against QPR. Adam Leventhal of The Athletic was saying he reminds him of Alba Abdi. So keep an eye on that one. Meanwhile, right back João Ferreira has taken the well-trodden path of going to Udinese on loan. Sunderland have signed Manchester United goalkeeper Nathan Bishop on a permanent deal. Southampton have let 2 defenders go to France. Mohamed Salisu has been sold, while Georgi Kaleta-Kar has been loaned out. They've gone to Monaco and Lyon, respectively. And Blackburn have sold young defender Ashley Phillips to Spurs and goalkeeper Thomas Kaminski to Luton.
And breathe.
Sorry.
And breathe.
And breathe. Good point. In other news, the EFL say it will be making added time more accurate next season. Match officials will add the exact time lost when certain game events happen. It comes after there was longer games in the World Cup. The ball was in play for an average of 52 minutes in the Championship last season, and I think everyone is happy with this news, aren't they, Justin?
It is 13 goals scored in extra time in the EFL this weekend, so it's being utilised very well. I'm a bit sceptical, I think mainly because you can still break up a game by stopping momentum by bringing a physio on, for example, and a time gets added on, but momentum is the key thing here with clubs, and you can kill that very quickly. Seen a few yellow cards for some really daft things this weekend. Can it be over refereed? Maybe. What's the point in dishing out a yellow card for not kicking a ball away, but changing the direction of a ball ever so slightly and adding time on anyway? I'm not too sure. And it just depends how consistent and how fluid referees are with it, because it can get to a point where it gets a bit silly.
I just don't want it to be one of those things that they start off doing at the start of the season, and then as the season goes on, it just drops off, because it annoys me when that has happened, and it has happened quite a few times.
Referees want to get home as well. Referees want to get home as well. That's all I'm going to say.
Conspiracy theories have started already. Apparently, it is going to be a rarity now for games to be shorter than 100 minutes. So something to keep an eye on. Let's do some polls, Justin. This is the part of the show where we give the listeners 3 questions on Twitter, because we want to get their thoughts on all things to do with the Championship. So the first question we asked was this: which of these teams is the most likely to win the league this season? Leeds, Leicester, Middlesbrough, Southampton.
Leicester. Yeah, I'll go Leicester.
I was going to say, you're not changing your mind already.
No.
Come on, Justin. 50% of people said Leicester, 37% said Southampton, 10% said Leeds, only 3% said Middlesbrough. Which of these teams is the most likely to go down this season? Huddersfield, QPR, Rotherham, Wednesday.
QPR.
Yeah, I thought you were going to say Wednesday because you put them bottom of your
QPR,
league table.
Yeah. Apologies for Wednesday because QPR are terrible.
One game. It's all it took, ladies and gentlemen. QPR got 72% of the votes. Rotherham got 16%. Wednesday 7%. Huddersfield 5%. And finally, who was the best Batman? Adam West, Christian Bale, Michael Keaton, Robert Pattinson.
That's actually really hard. Michael Keaton was a great Batman, but he couldn't move his neck, and that made it look a bit weird in some action scenes. So I'll edge towards Christian Bale.
Yeah, I'll go for Bale as well. 68% of people said Bale, 13% said Adam West, 10% said Robert Pattinson. He was very good in the last Batman, to be fair. 90% said Michael Keaton. 9% said Michael Keaton, sorry. And now it's time for this.
Hi, Simon, Grayson here.
Yes, it's time for Simon Grayson's Hateful 8. So I'm going to ask Justin to name 8 of a certain subject. All he's got to do is name all 8. So, for example, if I were to say name Steve Bruce's last 8 clubs, and he would say Villa, that's 1 down, and then Newcastle, that's another down. But if Justin would then say Weymouth, he'd be out. So all he needs to do is give me all 8 answers. No extra lives for you this week, Justin.
Wow.
Simon Grayson says he'll be disappointed if you don't get this. So much so, that I'm also giving you a 10-second time limit between answers. Otherwise, you could take the piss with this. It's a simple one, but it's also very easy to fuck up. Are you ready?
Yeah, go on then. Come on, get started. 10 seconds, let's go.
Can you name for me the 8 teams in the Premier League and EFL this new season who begin with the letter W?
This is a test of the IQ. West Brom.
Correct.
In the Premier League, you said as well.
Premier League and EFL.
Premier League and EFL. Wickham.
Correct. 2 down.
West Ham.
Also correct. 3 down. 5 to go.
Wolves.
Yeah. Flying through it. Halfway through.
Yep, now I'm stuck. Now the brain's struggling.
5 seconds.
I can't think of any more teams.
Honestly. Championship expert, and he's missed out a championship side as well.
I have.
Your 10 seconds is up, by the way. You've completely messed that up, Justin. That is shameful on your behalf.
If you didn't tell me the 10-second timer, I'd have been a lot more composed. That's mind game trick there from
I'll let you off.
Simon Grayson.
Do you want to enter back in?
Go
on.
Fine, but I can't think of any teams. So.
Flipping heck. Pathetic. Absolutely pathetic. The teams you were looking for were Watford.
Oh, yeah. Watford. Yeah. They were good.
Wigan.
Yeah. Damn. They
Walsall.
Yeah.
And Wrexham.
Nah, not Wrexham.
Shameful showing from you.
It's the first one of the season. It's either going to be a bumpy ride or it's going to be fine. Simon Grayson was harsh with the 10-second time cap. That's just how he is.
Literally just had to name football teams.
I didn't.
It's because simple as that.
No, I couldn't just name football teams, could I? Because they had to be beginning with the letter W.
Yeah, and you still failed, even though one of the teams is literally in the league that you cover.
Congratulations. It wasn't a championship quiz either. It was an EFL Premier League quiz. So my championship expert status is still intact. Thank you.
Jump in a dumpster. This has been the Second Tier Podcast. This has been our roundup of the first weekend of the championship season. What a weekend to kick things off. And ladies and gentlemen, the roller coaster is underway. We look forward to going through all the twists and turns of the championship season. This has been the Second Tier Podcast. We'll be back again on Thursday for a preview episode of next weekend. So we look forward to seeing you then. This has been the Second Tier Podcast. I've been Ryan Dilks.
I've been Justin Peach.
And a big thank you for listening.